Hi there, listener, and I'd like to welcome my special guest today, which is Dan Egan. Dan will be a familiar name to anyone who's watched a Warren Miller movie, or perhaps people who visited the Vermont stand at the London ski show back over the years. Dan was part of the original freeride scene back when it was better known as extreme skiing. And the reason I wanted to talk to you today, Dan, is that you've got a new book out, 30 Years in a White Haze. According to the blurb, it's your story of worldwide adventure and the evolution of extreme skiing. So welcome to the Ski Podcast. How are you?
It's great to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
It's a pleasure. Remind us where you are just now. Where are you talking to?
I'm sitting in beautiful Montana. We're having a nice snowstorm right now in Big Sky, Montana. This is where I do all my steep camps and reside here all winter long.
Excellent. And how much snow have you had in this snowstorm just now? What are the conditions like?
Well, the conditions are good. It pains me to say Jackson Hole has a bit more snow than us right now, but we're getting our fair shake. And yeah, so skiing's very good traditionally here in Big Sky. Our snow comes just a little at a time, and the wind smooths it out. And of course, skiing off Lone Peak is a very unique experience, much like skiing in Europe. And of course, I should mention my springtime home is Val d'Isère, France. So I spend mid-March to May 1st in Val every year.
Do you? That's great. I'm a big fan of Val d'Isère, as most European skiers who've tried it are. A wonderful resort. And I think I just watched a tremendous video featuring a Big Sky, and it kind of explained one of the reasons why you have chosen to locate your camps there, because it offers a lot for steep skiing. Is that right?
Yeah, it does. Lone Peak is really unique. We ski off three sides of the summit. There's a small little tram that takes 15 people to the top. And, you know, we're home of the big couloir, the big C, as we call it around here. It's about 15 to 1,600 vertical feet. You ski it alone. Nobody else gets to drop in. You have to do it by scheduling your time. The North Summit Snowfield is epic. And of course, the south facing, many people know the names Lenin, Marx, and the Dictators. That's the name of our chutes over here on the south side. And it's quite a unique experience. But one of it is that with only 15 people in the tram, it's not crowded, nobody's skiing over you, and we don't form moguls.
Right, that's great. Just that big sea couloir you mentioned then. So you ski it on your own. Is that a safety issue? Is that why you do that?
It is. You have to be with a partner. And one person stays on top while the other person drops in. And, you know, we don't want people skiing over each other. And we don't want the big to become a mogul run. So, yeah. You know, it's quite unique to ski a run here in North America alone without the feeling the pressure of somebody above you or somebody might fall on you. So it's quite a unique experience.
Excellent. And I think in the video as well, it mentioned couloirs A to Z. I wondered if there were like 26 different couloirs. Is that what that means?
That's true. Yeah, there is the A to Z couloir chutes, and that's a whole ridge of beautiful chutes that you can hike to. And off the other side of that is the headwaters terrain, which is some of the most radical terrain in all of North America.
Just talking to you, you know, in the current situation we're in Europe, where there's not so much skiing you can do unless you happen to be located in a ski resort. So frustrating, and it sounds so good. I wondered if I could take you back, Dan. I know the book covers, you know, many different aspects of your life. I'm really probably most interested in the skiing side of things. And I think I'm right in saying that there was one particular incident on Mount Elbrus in Russia that had a really significant impact on your life more than anything else. Could you tell us a bit about that and what happened?
Yeah, 30 years ago, May of 1990, we were climbing and skiing Mount Elbrus. The trip was sponsored by Degre 7, of course, founded by the grandfather of extreme skiing, Patrick Valençant. It was a mixture of 9 different countries. It was really the celebration of Patrick's life. There were Chamonix guides, my brother, myself. We had our cameraman. We were filming and shooting for ESPN. And there was also a contest that the clothing company held where people could win a trip, a dream trip to Elbrus. Of course, Elbrus kills more people than Everest. That's a little known fact that not a lot of people pay attention to. And the day of our summit attempt, there was a storm that trapped 50 climbers at the summit. I was one of 4 of our climbers that was stuck in the storm. I was lost for 38 hours. A Russian saved my life. And the next day we rescued 14 people. It's reported that over 33 people died that day. 100-mile-an-hour winds, 5 feet of snow. And so, yeah, that hence 30 years in a white haze, that trauma experience has never left me.
Yes, I mean, from what you're saying there, that sounds like a seriously traumatic experience. Did you say you were lost for 38 hours just then?
38 hours.
Yeah. Were you conscious? Were you aware of what was going on at the time?
Yeah, Sasha, the Russian, found me in a snow cave I had dug, which when he found me, I was having hallucinations. I like to say I was having the white light experience, and it was interrupted by a 6'4" Russian. And I believe I was dead when he found me. He brought me back, and we spent the night together. Yeah, I was conscious of that. And then the whole next day, we struggled breaking trail. And like I said, leading 14 others down the mountain.
Gosh, well, yeah, that would be an experience, and I take it you're kind of suggesting to me there that changed your outlook on life and the direction that you felt your life was going to take.
It did, for sure. I think that most of the major decisions of my adult life stem from that experience, whether consciously or subconsciously. And of course, still making my living in the mountains. And traveling to the Arctic and all around the world. I've been in countless storms. I've rescued countless people off of summits. But even on a day like today, in a snowstorm here in Montana, I'll be in my mind thinking about the worst possible thing that can happen. I think as guides, that's our job. The clients, they don't have to think about that. That's our job. They should be thinking about the best possible thing that can happen. And we should deliver on that promise. But for their safety, we need to be thinking about the worst possible thing.
For sure. Well, it's interesting. I was talking to my brother only the other day about how it's almost rare these days that he and I have to make any decisions about which slopes we take on, because we're normally with a guide. We've effectively delegated out those decisions to people who know better than us, which is probably the most sensible way of approaching it, for sure. So what year was that you were at Elbrus?
1990.
1990. So that was in the middle, because I think a lot of people listening to the podcast will perhaps, know your name because they've seen you in one of the Warren Miller movies. And I think you're in 12 of those in total. And so that 1990 trip to Russia was kind of in the middle of that, because you appeared in movies kind of between the mid 80s and mid 90s. Is that right?
Yeah. My brother John, appeared in close to 16, 17 titles with Warren. We skied together in 14 of them. And actually, we reunited in the latest Warren Miller film, Future Retro, out this year. They dusted off the old dogs, and they had Scott Schmidt, myself, John, and Tom Day here in Montana.
Right, that's great. I think with that Future Retro one, it is because of everything that's gone on. It was released digitally, but I think users can probably still track that down digitally. I'll put a link into the show notes there. I mean, that's interesting that within a minute or so of me mentioning that I've been skiing with my brother, so much of your career there has involved skiing with your brother, and to me, it's a real pleasure. I'm sure it must have been the same, or is the same for you as well.
Yeah, for sure. Skiing with my brother, we understood each other's movements. We were mirror images of each other. I could be following him towards the edge of a cliff, and I could tell from his pole plant, from a stem turn, from a push, what he was thinking and how hard he was going to charge off the edge of it. So those sort of visual cues really made a lot of things possible for us. We could ski so close together, side by side. And jump large cliffs right next to each other.
Yeah, in one of the videos or somewhere I was when I was doing my research just to find out a little bit more, I noticed you used the phrase "climb, ski, huck, repeat," and that was your life around that time, right?
Absolutely. Yes, for sure. Exactly.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so, how did the invite first come then? Because Warren Miller obviously has, famously been making or had been making movies for a very long time. So, how did you first get involved in it?
Well, back in the 70s and 80s, Warren would send cameramans out to the ski areas, and this cameramen would check with the marketing directors, and they would sort of, allocate skiers towards the event. So my brother skied in his first movie in 1979. He was just a ski bum at Sugarbush washing dishes, and he was just a hot young kid skiing, and this marketing director recommended him ski for the camera. In '85, I was washing dishes at the same resort at Sugarbush in Vermont, and the cameraman came back to town, and we got to ski together for the first time, my brother and I. I was sort of an unknown. I was taking time off from university and just finding my way, so to speak. But then it really happened for us. Warren took John to Verbier to ski with John Faulkner and
Yep.
Mark Shapiro and the Combine Kids, and that segment was a very popular segment, 1986. The next year I had graduated college, and we pestered Warren Miller until he sent a cameraman up to shoot us at Squaw Valley that winter. And really the rest was history. We just started skiing together, and it happened really fast for us.
That's great. I noticed that Mark Shapiro has done a review for the book where he talked about that period of time when you were over in Verbier with John Faulkner as well. What was the name of your crew that you were skiing as at the time?
Well, of course, John, Ace Cavalier, and Marco were known as, they lived in this cabin in Verbier. And that's sort of the scene stems from that. For all of the imagery that the Americans saw of European skiing. Of course, John Faulkner did a lot of the stunts in the James Bond movies. Ace Cavalier was, one of the leading photographers for Powder Magazine back here in the States. And Marco, of course, is worldwide famous for his photography. So coming out of that little cabin, of course, it was made famous again in Blizzard of Oz by Greg Stump. And those three were, sort of the ski bums of our day. They were living the life. They were professionals making money. And everybody passed through there, Scott Schmidt, Glenn Plake, the Egans, on, because we were all searching for, the sort of the insider knowledge of Europe. So if you were in Verbier, you would check with those guys. If you went over to Chamonix, a lot of times they would come with you, or you'd find other sources. John, when he was in Chamonix in the mid '80s, skied with Valençant and that crew, and we cover that scene in the book where they're following Patrick Valençant through Chamonix, and one day Patrick picked John up thumbing, and John says, "Oh, Patrick, you're one of my heroes. I've been following you around." And Patrick goes, "Yeah, I've noticed. We've been laughing." And he goes, "Why are you laughing?" He says, "Because we know you Americans don't carry a rope."
Oh, right. Okay. That makes sense. And so that was a time when, before anyone had ever heard of free riding or free skiing, it was extreme skiing, wasn't it? And it was that era where that world was being created, right?
Yeah, it really was. Racing was a little stagnant at the time, particularly in the States, because the Mayer brothers Phil and Steve had retired. And we tie this in with the book. Really it was the birth of the VHS and the VCR combined with this sort of change in gears. The ski industry was looking for something exciting. We were young, we were wearing day clothes suits, we had big hair and headbands, no helmets, and just hucking off cliffs. And, we MTV'd extreme skiing. We glitz, we glamored it, we sponsored it. But, because of the VHS tape and the VCR machine, extreme skiing became not so much a sport, but a form of entertainment. People would watch those tapes. You'd walk into Dick's T-Bar, of course, in Val d'Isere. He'd be playing our movies. And that was happening around the world.
Yeah, for sure it was. I mean, I was doing ski seasons all through, or almost all through that period that you're in the Warren Miller movies, and yeah, and it was just fantastic to be able to see, these great runs putting down. Was there a favorite, perhaps, of the different scenes that you filmed in the Warren Miller movies?
Well, I had gone to Warren early in my career and told him I wanted to travel around the world wherever CNN was. So I wanted to go to world events. I wanted to tie skiing into a bigger audience. We jumped off the Berlin Wall in 1989. We were in Red Square during the Perestroika Revolt in 1990, right prior to Elbrus. We skied with on the border of Iraq and Turkey during the first Persian Gulf War. Um, and on it went like that. You know, when they murdered Ceausescu, we went to Romania. We were in Yugoslavia a week before the Civil War started in Slovenia. Um, and by tying our skiing to mountain countries around the world, to worldwide events, these became very, very popular in the films. And of course, Hannes Schneider had once said, if everybody skied, there'd be no wars. And Warren would often repeat that during our segments. And we were sort of, on a track for that. And it was so fun to be part of that. And, it's funny, if you look at the world now, you wouldn't be able to ski the locations we skied. The world has not become safer. A lot of the places we went, you wouldn't go today.
Yeah, I mean that all of those locations you just listed off there, they just sound amazing. But I love that line
Yeah.
that you're saying there. You know, if everybody skied, there'd be no wars. I completely
Yeah.
believe that. And perhaps I think another thing I believe that Warren Miller might have said to you before is say yes before you say no.
Exactly. Exactly. He told me if
So
I,
when they're throwing these great ideas at you, like I don't know, Romania or Turkey or something like this. Well, grasp the nettle is another expression, and now you've got all of those amazing experiences
yeah.
under your belt. So the Berlin Wall. I take it there was no snow there. Did you just actually just huck it? How did
We,
that work?
we did, we were crashing in an apartment in Val d'Isere, and it was coming up to the British holidays. They were going to raise the rent, so we had to get out. So we borrowed a van and had some time to kill. We drove all the way to the Berlin to stage this event of jumping off the wall for freedom, of course. And we landed in mud puddles on the east and the west side.
Wow, well, that's amazing. I have actually seen that footage, and I'll put that into the show notes as well. So just now, then you're based in Big Sky. Something else I noticed one of your videos, the way you like to coach people, is skiing from the head down, not the feet up. Do you want to explain that philosophy a little bit?
Yeah, I think we get bogged down too much in technique. It's really applied technique, how you think about your skiing. What I say to people every day, I'll say it again today to people. What you think about your skiing is none of your business. Uh, we're so critical of ourselves, and to free yourself from the critical mind allows you to enter into the flow state, into the now. People are passing judgment every time from the moment they wake up. Is it warm? Is it cold? Did it snow? The snow's good. The snow's not too good. Should I go on piste? Should I not? I mean, it just goes on and on. By the time they buckle their boots, they've just already trashed their mind. So we really work on this idea of freeing yourself from the critical mind, breathing, entering into the flow state, and witnessing, sort of more observing the day, observing your technique, and then applying techniques through strategy and tactics. Like yourself, me, and countless others, we can ski. We know how to go left and right. The question is, where do we decelerate? What part of the hill should we slow down on? How should we carve? When should we skid? And why are we attaching so much emotion to this? As a powder day today here in Montana, the herd is here, the anxiety is up, everybody's going. And, like my good friend Henry Schneidwin says in Val d'Isere, let's go in the second wave. Let's go against the grain. Let's get the low-hanging fruit. And I find it much more casual, much more fun. And trust me, when people ski with me, they're worn out at the end of the day. So it's not that we're not skiing enough.
No, well, that sounds great. That sounds like a great philosophy, and I can only hope that there'll maybe be a time where we can cross over in Val d'Isere, because I think that would be amazing to have the opportunity to ski with you. Well, I'd really like to thank you for your time today, Dan. The book sounds like it's going to be a must read. We do have a ski book group on the podcast, so we'll put that onto it. It's called 30 Years in a White Haze, and I believe it comes out on the 20th of February.
It does. You can pre-order it now. It will be up on Amazon. You can go to our site, whitehaze.com. And of course, you'll remember Nick Lyons and the Adventures of Joe Powder from Val d'Isere. We had commissioned Nick to do Joe Powder's Ultimate Run. And that's in the book as well. So all the cartoons are there, as well as every chapter has different illustrations from a couple of UK artists. Are in the book as well. So the book is really a history of skiing, an adventure story, but it's 400 pages. It's really sort of a must read for people who are vested in this era of our time.
Yeah, well, it sounds good. So my advice to you, listener, then is don't put it on your Christmas list. Buy it now.
Great.
Cool. All right. Well, that's brilliant, Dan. Thanks so much for your time. And like I say, enjoy the rest of your season in Big Sky, and maybe we'll cross over in Val d'Isere at some point.
I'll let you know when I'm there. It would be a pleasure.